You can now get a 30-day trial to experience The Athletic for free. Visit the link in the description below to try it now.
Hello there, this is Tifo IRL and I am JJ Bull. But I am joined in this video by Tom Worville, who is still trapped inside the scattergram!
Yeah, still here.
How's it, can you breathe?
Yeah, I can breathe. There's a good air supply, which is quite nice. But there's no food or drink, so somehow I'm just... Every time you click the video, I come back to life.
Oh, okay, cool, like a genie sort of situation.
Kind of like 2021 genie. Yeah.
But you can't grant any wishes, like for example, to leave the scattergram.
No, the only wishes I get is, well, A, I wish to leave, but I can't. Yeah. And then B, I use my wishes to get different data for us to talk about in these videos.
Tom Worville is stuck in a scattergram. Tom Worville is stuck in a scattergram. A scattergram is a graphic representation of points referencing two variables.
Yep, so this one we're going to look at, let me just move back, progressive passes along the X. Progressive passes, obviously that's not a term which you might immediately know what it means. And there's quite a complex definition which we'll try and break down now. So it is any pass which goes further upfield 10 yards than any previous pass in the last 6 passes. So instead of, if I pass to Don, pass to you, passes back to me, pass to Don, if I'm the one who moves the play upfield, I'll get a bit of credit for that. So that's what a progressive pass is. Only in the top 60% of the field, so just past the bottom of the D, or it's a pass that goes into the penalty area. So just think of passes which are trying to break lines, progress the play upfield, trying to move everyone up, and yes, they're helping get the ball up there.
How about this sort of thing? So say we had a 6 here, this guy here. Now if he went for this guy here, it's not progressive.
Yeah.
He goes here, it's not. There would be.
Yeah.
But say he goes to here, and then he passes to here, then he passes to here.
Yeah.
Bear with me. Then he goes to here. That again is a progressive pass.
Yeah, I think so. Because it's gone over 10 yards upfield from the point where it's been in the last 6 or so passes.
I'm going to assume, in fact, I know, but progressive dribbles are similar.
Yeah, similar. So again, it's anything in the top 60% of the field. So again, bottom of the semicircle, the center circle even, it's not a semicircle. And it moves the side at least 5 yards directly upfield, or you carry the ball into the penalty area. So similar kind of thing. You guys on the ball, but instead of this time, I guess he's not a 6. He's a Emile Smith-Rowe type who runs with the ball from deep. He's the kind of player who will get a lot of progressive carries because he's dragging the ball upfield with it at his feet.
Right, and this then is going to show us what sort of players are useful, or not useful, but do certain things. For example, kind of somewhat predictably, Lionel Messi seems to be quite good at both.
Yeah. So again, I can't point there directly because I'll lose my hand, but Lionel Messi is kind of the best player on this. And we mentioned in the last video, someone who's an attacker, a creator, and a progressor. I think this is what I'm thinking about when we call him a progressor. He's the guy who is dragging his team upfield through his actions. Maybe isn't creating chances with it, maybe isn't shooting and trying to score, but you know from watching that he's doing something which is very useful, which is dribbling past 2 or 3 players and getting the ball into very, threatening positions.
Interesting then that he's very similar to Neymar, who does similar things off the opposite wing, although Messi's more, we talked about this in another video, that Messi's more of a striker and a deeper forward now. Neymar, and then Marco Verratti.
Yeah, it's an interesting mix. So obviously they've not played together much in this data, and it really won't impact things, but you see that there's a clear kind of similarity between Neymar and Messi and what they do in terms of they're both very good at progressing with their passing and with the ball at their feet. And Verratti is kind of that guy who roams the midfield, maybe in Pochettino's 4-3-3. He's one who's given a bit more license to roam. You've got Leandro Paredes, kind of this bottom side here, who's more of a passer than a runner with the ball. Very technically gifted, great at kind of splitting lines with his passes. He's the one who will kind of sit deep and spray the ball upfield between the lines. And Verratti's the guy who can do a bit of both. So the interesting thing, and it's something I wrote on an article on The Athletic, is how Messi and Neymar will play together. Because if they're both progressing the ball, there's only one ball, there's only one player who can really do that. And how do you get them to kind of play nice and work well together if they both like doing those things, but obviously they can't both do it at the same time. I guess they could do. It'd be a bit weird if kind of like me and you were running side by side with the ball at feet, it wouldn't really make a lot of sense,
It might
space-wise.
confuse the defenders.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it either.
No, it's probably quite hard to coach, but anyway.
Interesting then if you'd have, say, Messi coming in off this right side like this, and then Neymar doing this sort of bit as well, if it's a 4-3-3. Also having Verratti able to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But I guess the important part of that is that it shows they can both progress the ball, take the team forward by passing and by dribbling, which makes them so special.
Yeah, and I just don't think, I mean, this with PSG, the issue for them isn't getting the ball upfield. I think the issue for Pochettino will be finding that balance. Because if you've got, I mean, we've named 3 guys there who can get the ball upfield really well. Who's sat at the back stopping counterattacks or trying to defend? I think that's the biggest question. They're obviously very good at attacking. How are you going to prevent them from getting dunked on by all going upfield at the same time?
I like that phrase.
Yeah, completely different sport, makes no sense in this context, but we move.
We move sideways because if Messi, Neymar and Verratti, in fact, I'll stick with Messi and Neymar because they were similar positions at some point in their career, to Adama Traore, who's right sort of behind you. Is he?
He's kind of here. He's kind of like right next to me there. That's quite a nice one. Him and Pedro Neto have obviously played together at Wolves. And for Wolves, and I guess maybe Tottenham this year with Nuno, they don't really have guys who are going to pass upfield. They have the wingers who kind of come in from deep with the ball at their feet. And we mentioned Smith Rowe in the intro. It's a bit like him. It's kind of running with the ball upfield on the counter. And, you know, we've all watched Adama Traore. We know kind of the way that he plays. He commits his man. He takes a lot of people on, loves to dribble with the ball at his feet. And he's not much of a passer. And that kind of perfectly shows here. He's kind of low on the passes and very high on the dribbles. And
that is useful, particularly for teams like Wolves, because, well, last season, for example, when they changed shape a little bit, they went from that normal 3-4-3, 3-5-2 that they often played with Nuno, to try to play to a 4-2-3-1 sometimes in a 4-3-3. But they were always meant to be a counter-attack kind of team, and that change of shape was meant to be, with a change of system, to be more possession-based. But when they're counter-attack and you're sort of under pressure, like if you imagine you've got the opposition team coming at you and keeping you, it's a team of 2 and they're very scared of them, but they're being crushed in here and they're pushed all the way back, and they don't really have the ability to pass through anyone because there's so much pressure on them, keeping them, imagine this is Man City, keeping them pushed in. Now the ball can be pinged out to the wing, and you've got Adama Traore here who can progressive carry them all the way up here. So rather than trying to pass it and risk losing the ball, he has that unique ability to get all the way up. And that's why, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think it's interesting because you've got a couple of guys around him, you know, Bernardo, Silva, maybe Callum Hudson-Odoi, not too far away, shows he's a bit more of a passer. And these are guys who are also putting up similar kind of progressive carry numbers. But I think those are more because they're making those runs into the box from wide positions. And they're kind of like stealing progressive carries because they're just getting into the box when the defence is packed in, they've got space to run into it. It's not quite the same impact. It's literally a different carry from one upfield to one that's kind of getting into the area. So there's ways that players could maybe game these metrics a little bit and you can look better than you perhaps are because not all carries are equal. But yeah, I think that shows you why kind of these guys around here put up similar numbers, but actually in reality it's quite different.
And on that exact note, that's why I think Grealish versus Bernardo Silva is interesting.
Yeah.
Because Bernardo obviously hugely talented with the ball at his feet and doing little dribbles and bits, but if they're in the final third, while that can help you, if you're in the final third, often that little bit of trickery, shenanigans can get you past the defender and into these situations to help a move go. Guardiola's teams tend to move players around by passing it, but then Grealish seems to be able to do both very well.
Yeah, he can do both very well, and obviously, again, a lot of this data here is from his time at Aston Villa, and he wouldn't have seen the ball as much as Bernardo Silva would have. So there's a kind of efficiency thing on, given the number of touches he had, and the numbers he's putting up, it just shows you how good he was on the ball, that every time he gets it, he's looking to kind of get upfield or kind of pass into someone. Whether his numbers will remain as high at City, because, you know, City, there's a lot of rules of how you can do certain things. There's kind of it feels like there's almost like some laws of how you can play in the City system. You can't just go on a tearing run out of nowhere. You won't get picked. They're very much coached into this positional play. There's kind of passes which are dictated, and whether that kind of stifles Grealish's, you know, innate creativity and wanting to just be a very individualistic player remains to be seen. But I think we can see from this, Bernardo Silva, more of a runner, Grealish does a bit of both.
Laws not unlike that preventing you from leaving the scattergram.
Yeah, probably more restrictive, less restrictive, not sure.
I'll tell you someone who isn't restricted.
Go on.
Jadon Sancho.
Oh, incredible segue. Yeah, Jadon Sancho is someone who, just around here, Does a bit of both again, kind of in the Grealish vein. A very creative passer. I think again, a lot of his aren't really those progressive passes from deep that get you upfield. It's making a really nice time pass through the lines into the box. For the likes of the runs of Haaland. And that's something that we'll see this year at United. He can carry you from deep, which Ollie's side like to attack on the counter at times. Sancho will be absolutely at home in that system, but also finding those kind of niggly passes into the area when you're playing someone who's kind of bunkered deep in their own half. I think he'll be able to do both, and we'll see him in a year's time when we do this again. He'll probably be in a similar place.
So what I've learned then is that Lionel Messi is amazing, but he's very similar to his teammates Neymar and Verratti. Jack Grealish makes perfect sense for Man City because he does more than what Bernardo, appears to do stats-wise.
Yeah.
Adama Traore does a lot of running.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you think is interesting that I should know about the scattergram?
I think we'll talk a couple of things before we leave. So the first is the goalkeepers down here. So you've got those guys there, and then you've also got, if I find here, round here somewhere in this kind of trough of mere and uninteresting footballers, you've got Calvin Phillips and Wilfred Ndidi, who Phillips is a bit more across to this side, down here somewhere. He's more of obviously a very good passer from deep, but a lot of his passes actually aren't that progressive in that sense. He'll maybe spray it out wide. They don't really show up in the kind of numbers as much as you maybe think. And Wilfred Ndidi is kind of quite restricted on the ball when he's passing it out and when he's dribbling. He very much is someone who you will see and he'll receive the ball, try and turn, and maybe will go back to the defender or go square. And that's why you need the likes of Yuri Tielemans alongside him. That's why you need defenders like Wesley Fofana or Soyuncu who can either carry or pass it out the back, because Ndidi is quite restricted as a ball progressor himself.
So for example, if you had Tielemans and say Ndidi's a 6 here, he's most likely thing he's going to do with the ball is play it very short to someone to try and keep the ball. He's not going to try and play it forward to take the team up. He's safety first.
Yeah.
That's what he wants to do. But if you've got Tielemans, who is both, I don't know where he is in the scattergram, if he's even there, but he's good at doing both things, progressive passes and carrying it. He's more of a box-to-box kind of player.
I'd say that he's probably more of the passer, and the kind of finishing part of that puzzle is Soumare, who they signed over the summer, who is very much, again, he's not highlighted here, he's kind of in this mix of can do a bit of both. He's got the speed to go between the lines, he's got an eye for a pass as well, something that he did pretty well at Lille last year. So he's a nice kind of, I think of it a bit of a Venn diagram. You've got Ndidi, who, I mean, you can't really do much actually, he's not even in the Venn diagram. You've got Yuri Tielemans, who's kind of the passer. You've got Soumare's in the middle, who can do the passing and the running with the ball, which is a really nice option. Either you play them in a 3, you rest one of them. He's got the kind of defensive side of his game as well. So on paper, it's a nice way of kind of solving different tactical problems for Brendan Rodgers and Leicester.
Anyone else?
Let's talk about Luca Cigarini, who's down here. Luca
Cigarini.
Yeah, the kind of like plotting algorithm just decided you guys are going to talk about this guy. I mean, these are all fairly recognisable names, and this is a 35-year-old Italian plodder of a midfielder. But evidently, someone who's very good at passing the ball forwards and getting it upfield. Played for Crotone last year, who were relegated from Serie A and moved down the divisions to Regina, I think, in Serie B, Serie C. But someone who, even despite his age, would be able to pick up the ball, turn, eye a pass, and play it forwards. I think that's really interesting.
Before I even looked at this graph, I knew, or I even looked up to the guy, Cigarini, I didn't know who he was. Sorry, Cigarini. I knew he'd be a defensive midfielder, and he is. That's what he is, and you can tell that from the data.
Yeah, and I feel kind of bad for him because he was someone who was at Atalanta, and he's put up similar-ish numbers kind of all of his career. Was linked to kind of Swansea back in the day, around I think when they picked up Roque Meza, who obviously was a fantastic player and won the Ballon d'Or.
Did he win the Ballon d'Or?
He didn't win the Ballon d'Or. He wasn't very good.
He didn't win the Ballon d'Or.
And Luca Cigarini was someone who was, I think Meza was kind of like more safe with his passing. Cigarini was that progressor, but he was kind of the hipster Atalanta player before Atalanta became Atalanta.
Did he miss the boat? He was cool before it was cool.
Yeah, and he's probably not going to go back there now, is he? But yeah, he was very much the guy who was kind of the data darling of sorts at Atalanta before they became cool.
Well, I tell you, it was not cool. Being trapped in the scattergram.
Yeah, another week, I'm still here. Same clothes as well. I don't think we really mentioned that. I'm not given any clothing.
I'm pleased that you can breathe. That was the most important thing, as I understand of humans. Important to breathe.
Yeah.
And in this space, he doesn't need sustenance of like food, water. Fine.
No, all good.
We're going to leave Tom in the scattergram. Thanks to Tom Worville, and thanks to you for watching. Subscribe to Tifo IRL. We'll see you next time.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you do enjoy Tifo, then you'll probably also like The Athletic. If you watch our tactics videos, you should go and read Michael Cox. If you're into data, read Tom Worville. And if you're into transfers, it's David Ornstein. Plus, if you're a fan of any Premier League team, then there's a journalist dedicated to you, and you can try it for free for 30 days now by clicking the link in the description.